We made it to glorious, lovely Mission Tejas. We got site number 2, Kai on the Royal Enfield, and me on the Versys X 300. We were gonna get here last night, but it was actually like storming. There was like a tropical storm, and Kyle and I were like, well, let's just leave, because we don't want to cancel our next trip, and we'll see how far we make it. And we made it to Corsicana, and we checked the radar when we were in Corsicana, and then from there to Palestine, it was like Palestine was already getting slammed with rain. So we just got a hotel in Corsicana. We stayed at the what was it called? The Hampton Inn. We stayed in the Hampton, and it never rained in Corsicana as far as we know. We were watching, expecting it to like come, but I guess we were watching the radar and it just kind of barely missed it. So we got at least one good night of sleep in, and one good shower in. Their breakfast wasn't existent. I don't know, I guess they had the kitchen closed. So we ate what we were planning on for breakfast, which was bacon. Now we're working on lunch. Kyle, have you ever had a freeze-dried meal before?
No, but check out how much food's in there.
Wow.
And it actually smells pretty good.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it smells like fried rice.
Okay. So we're using the electric kettle, something that we recently bought. Basically, I've never had one of these either, but this is mine. It's currently being made. You open, add 12 ounces, or open and get rid of the little oxygen pad. Add 12 ounces of water, stir, wait 5 minutes, open, stir again, wait 4 more minutes, and then it's supposed to be done. So here's mine. It's at 3 and almost 4 minutes now. Here's our tents. So there's still a tropical storm going on. We managed to drive from Corsicana here. We left at, what, 9 maybe, 8:30 this morning. We got here around 10, 11. I don't know. I haven't been watching the clock. But we didn't drive through any rain. So here's our tents. This is the only flat spot. It was the tent pad, so we kind of had to do some weird positioning to get our tents so that they can open up. Kyle's is kind of overlapping. The blue one's Kyle's, this one's mine. It's overlapping a little bit, but I was able to pull mine forward over that piece of wood, the barrier, and I'm just gonna sleep towards the back of mine. So apparently what'd you say, Kyle? The radar was going to, it was gonna
2 hours. It's supposed to rain for the next like 4 or 5 hours.
And it's heavy rain, right?
It looks like it.
Because we want to do our hike, so maybe after we eat,
I have to just do the hike anyway.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, we're wearing athletic shorts.
I mean, what's it gonna do?
And I have another pair of socks, and I mean, we have our riding boots. So the worst that can happen is we can get wet, come back and change into dry clothes. But the thing is, if we come back, we don't have, I brought a tarp, but I'm kind of lazy and I don't really want to set it up. I hope I don't regret that decision. That tarp was supposed to be for under my tent, but I didn't want to try to figure out how to get it on the board and all that. So right now we just have some firewood inside the tarp. I don't know, maybe we should set up the tarp, because if it's not going to be a very big tarp, but there's only 2 of us, so we can crowd under it. And then if it rains for 6 hours, you know, we're gonna get bored. So if it rains, there's a couple places we can go to get shelter, but it'll get boring just sitting in there. Yeah, we got our lights set up. Well, I don't know how useful they're gonna be, but whoa, there's a step there. I bought that on Amazon. It's just like a real thin, I can roll it up and shove it in my bag, and then I just use some string to pull it tight. And so if at night, that should be helpful, not having to have a flashlight for every single thing you're doing. All right, well, that's good. Let's finish making our freeze-dried meals and see how they taste. So I'm having my chili mac, which is definitely, is it chili mac? Yeah, chili mac, which is definitely chili. I was wondering if I put too much water in it, but we looked it up and I think I put the right amount in. So here goes. Mike reacts to Mountain House freeze-dried meals. So the only problem with the electric kettle approach is if you're backpacking, you can't use electric kettle. Although I did test that electric kettle on my jack. It says it's 300 watts. I plugged it into my kilowatt meter at the house and it was 380 and I was pissed because I was like, that means
still run it though if you're 500 watts.
I could. Well, I was pissed because I was like, I'm not gonna be able to run it on my Jackery 300. Well, I plugged it in my Jackery 300 and it pulled 285 watts.
And it did it?
It did it. Yeah, it ran it the whole time, boiled the water. And so I was like, okay, because I have that, it's a smaller, more portable unit. I think it's because, like in your house, your voltage is 120 to 125, and the Jackery puts out 110. Mm-hmm. So it's the lower voltage, I guess, decreases the wattage because of the resistance. But I'm not going to go backpacking carrying a Jackery.
Yeah, I mean, that's when you just bring like a metal kettle and just boil it over the fire.
Yeah.
You just have to plan ahead for when you need more water.
It's still hot. I think I need to give it a minute to cool down. I don't know how to do this. Because I don't want it to spill on my lap. It's still hot. It's still really hot. Not bad.
Does it have a taste to it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It tastes good.
It looks like it has a lot of seasoning stuff in there when it was dry.
Lots of salt. Let's look at the sodium. Per container, 1,520 milligrams. That's a pretty decent amount of sodium. That's the thing, a lot of these canned foods and freeze-dried stuff, because that Chef Boyardee, I think it was like 1,200 milligrams of sodium.
That's the easiest way to season something, I guess.
But I think, supposedly, salt's good for sweating, isn't it? Because it helps you retain water. That's what I think. I could be wrong. I'm not a doctor. All right, we are going on the steep ravine trail. Is what that sign says. Kai and I. So here goes. It looks pretty easy from this angle, but it's called Steep Ravine Trail. What was it? 2.4 miles?
Yeah, about 2.5.
2.5 miles. Back at camp now. We went 3.17 miles. It's 3:32 and it may start storming any minute now. It rained a little bit on us while we were hiking, but not much. Just sprinkled. And I was joking that was it. We're done with the storm. I don't know, we'll see. But right now we're gonna try to start a small fire. Just so we've got some coals going in case it does rain. It'll already be the fire will already be going. We got this firewood for a $5 donation that we didn't have any cash, and so I told the lady, I was like, do you take credit cards? And they're like, no, just take one. So I feel kind of bad, but now we know to bring cash next time. Anyway, I'm gonna start the fire with this fat wood. You ever smelled fat wood, Kai? I like the smell of it. Call me weird, but we'll see if this works. As long as the thing runs, it starts. Immediately stops as soon as I take the electric away, the plasma. There we go. Ah! Come on.
There you go. Oh, oh.
Maybe I'll hold it like this so it can travel up the log. So much for this fat wood. Well, I do have a zip starter.
It's trying.
Yeah, I just have to keep, I don't know how long I've only got 3 ticks of battery left. I think it uses quite a bit of battery to run this. Actually, this whole thing's kind of warm in my hand. Hopefully this works. There we go. Okay, that one lit. So now that I got a little bit of a fire going, we'll use that to get the fat wood started. There we go.
Nice.
Only brought one zip. So hopefully the coals stay warm for dinner. I could have, you know what I could have done? I didn't think about this. I could have taken my pocket knife and shaved it pieces off and then lit that. And that probably would have started it pretty easy. We're here at the mission because it started raining slightly. We think it's not gonna rain that hard, but we'll see what we know. Let me go out into the rain and show you the mission. There's the mission. Kind of convenient. It's not too far from our site. It's actually not too far from the bathhouse over there either. But it's bigger and nicer. Well, I don't know, nicer, just bigger than the bathhouse. There's a fireplace. There's like cobwebs coming down it. Looks like something from a horror movie. We've already hiked, what, 3.5 miles or something like that. And we're hoping to do one or two more trails. So 4.1 miles total. It's 4:15. You know what's funny is we've been looking at the weather and it keeps saying it's gonna rain and it doesn't. Keeps saying it, and so we don't believe when it says it's gonna rain. But we're totally believing that tomorrow it's accurate and it's not, because it says it's not gonna rain tomorrow. That'd be pretty bad if we get up tomorrow and it's like torrential downpour and we're like, we can't pack up in this. Well, our backup plan could be we just get all of our stuff and drag it into the mission here. So there was a break in the rain and we decided that we were going to go on some hikes. Well, it wasn't a complete break. It was more like the rain slowed down. And so here's Kyle and I were soaked. We looked at the radar and just barely to the east of us, it was raining a lot harder than it is here. And so we were hiking and it's like, yeah, it's not too bad. It's just a little rainy. And then the further east we went, it started raining harder and harder. So we were laughing because we're like, man, that radar is actually really accurate. But now it seems like, so we went back west and it did slow down, but now it's on top of us and we're getting soaked. And we're a little nervous because our tents are pretty much sitting in water too. And all of our gear's in our tents. So we may have a rough night tonight. But we do have some hope because it looks like after 10 p.m. the chances of rain quickly diminishes down to like less than 20% all night. So we're hoping, right now our tents are doing the job. Last time we looked in them at least, everything inside was still dry. So as long as and it's all sand out here. So we're hoping the water is going to soak in. Look, this is the trail, just so you guys can see that. It looks more like a creek. So we're kind of on the side of it here. Anyway, if the water soaks into the ground enough, you know, when it stops, I think pretty quickly the ground will absorb it all because it's sand. Then we may be able to sleep a good night tonight. We'll just go shower, put on dry clothes, and it'll be like nothing ever happened. But some other epiphany that I had while Kyle and I were hiking in this rain was, when I was a little kid, I remember multiple times being out in this much rain and not really being that worried about it. Not really knowing why everyone was like panicking for, I mean, rain, it's just rain, it's just water. I told Kyle, just pretend like we're in a water park out of season. We've gone 6.6 miles. It's currently 5:55, or as Sarah would say, 55. So if it rains like this until 10, we've got a solid 4 more hours. Very nice bridge. There's our motorcycles getting a nice bath, and there's our tent. it didn't take long to dry my hair.
Overall, I'd say this trip was a raging success. My favorite camping trips are the ones that don't always go 100% perfect, but you know, you end up with some fun things that turn out to make good memories. Now, it wasn't a disaster. We slept good, and there was no major issues with the bikes or anything, but the rain was definitely something that made this trip memorable. Most of the times I go camping, I've got tarps or something like that set up to deal with the rain. That makes it not a big deal, but in this one we just flat out hiked right through it and dealt with the rain. Now, some things that I've learned from this trip, one is be careful for your tent pad. Our site, that was the only level spot, and that's where we set our tents up at. I didn't realize how much water was going to be held in our tent pad. Whenever we got back to our site after the rain had cleared up, there was a solid 1.5 to 2 inches of standing water in our tent pad, and our tents were resting in that. Now, luckily, our tents didn't actually get water inside, so all of our stuff stayed dry. The trip would have been pretty rough if we would have had to figure out ways to sleep in a wet sleeping bag. So that was awesome that our tents actually did the job and stayed dry. But we ended up having to drain the tent pad we just found a log, a straight log, and used it, you know, kind of like a fishing or a canoe oar, and we just took about 20 passes and pushed all the water out of the tent pad, probably about an hour before we went to bed, so the rest of the rain just soaked in. Now, had the rain continued all night, that would have also been a problem. We wouldn't have had any other option besides sleeping in that waterbed, and water would have eventually permeated the tent, and we would have been sleeping in standing water. That would have been a disaster. The other thing I would say that I learned from this trip is I don't know, maybe I need to go over all the stuff that I packed and then kind of decide, you know, is this a necessary item? Is this something I want to bring in the future? Kyle and I both wished we had brought like a chessboard or something to do while we were waiting for the rain to pass when we were hanging out in the pavilion. You know, it wasn't that bad. We just hung out. But had we had a chessboard, we probably would have played a game of chess and not even really realized that the time was going by. But other than that, you know, I brought a tarp, which turned out great because we were able to wrap up our firewood. And later that night, we were able to start another fire and use the rest of our firewood. But had we put that tarp up, it may have made the rain a little less undesirable. I actually kind of laughed in the video whenever I said, you know, I hope I don't regret that decision. Yeah, I regretted that decision. You know, but I was feeling lazy and we were just camping one night, so whatever. But at some point I may try to go through all my stuff that I packed for this trip and kind of decide what is good and what's a luxury item. Kyle definitely packed light, and he was content with what he packed. He's got that Royal Enfield Interceptor, which doesn't have as much cargo space. I think he had one dry bag and a backpack, and he was good with all of that. He even had his food, change of clothes, and everything on board that was necessary. His tent, his pillow, his sleeping bag, etc. I think he even had a sleeping pad, whereas I had things like, I think one of my whole saddlebags was just gear that was stuff that was nice to have, like the fire starter, the fat wood. I had a couple extension cords in there so I could run that light set. I had I had a whole different bag with just food stuff, food prep, and I had that electric kettle. I had a cooler with Dr. Peppers in it. I had some bacon that I cooked the night before in the cooler. And then I had all my canned freeze-dried meals. I had some beef jerky, all that kind of stuff that I didn't actually use. I mean, I used some of that stuff, I guess. I guess it's a good thing to have a little extra food just in case one of your meals don't work out, you don't starve. And then lastly, I definitely should have brought cash. Hopefully you like this video. If you want to see more like this, go ahead and subscribe, and whenever I post future moto camping trips, you'll be able to see it. I can't wait for my next one. I don't know, I don't have one on the calendar yet, but I definitely will try to get a couple more in this year. It was a lot of fun, and I can't wait to do another one. Thanks for watching.